You walk into a room you have never been in before, or someone says a sentence you have definitely never heard, and out of nowhere, it hits you. You have been here. This exact moment. You know logically that you have not, but the feeling is so strong and so specific that for a second or two, reality itself feels a little off, like the ground tilted. That is déjà vu, and almost everyone gets it. So what is actually happening in your brain when it does? Why does it feel so uncanny? And here's the twist. Why might it actually be a sign that your mind is working exactly as it should? Let me explain. Let me start by clearing away what people usually think déjà vu is. When that eerie wave hits, the explanations your mind reaches for tend to be dramatic. Maybe it is a memory from a past life. Maybe it is a flash of the future, a premonition. Maybe it is a glitch in the simulation, a little hiccup in the matrix. And on the darker side, some people quietly worry that it means something is wrong with them. I want to take all of those off the table right now, gently. Déjà vu is not mystical. It is not a glimpse of another life or a coming event. And for the vast majority of people, it is not a sign of anything being broken at all. In fact, according to one of the leading scientific explanations, it might be close to the opposite. It could be a small, quiet sign that your brain is working properly. Once you see how, that unsettling feeling gets a lot less spooky and a lot more fascinating. So here is the plan. I am going to walk you through 3 things in order. First, what déjà vu actually is, mechanically. What specific thing goes sideways in that moment? Second, the leading scientific explanations for why it happens. And I am going to be honest with you that this one is not fully solved. And third, the genuinely reassuring thing that eerie feeling might be telling you about your own mind. Let's start with what is actually going on. The first thing to understand is that déjà vu is a feeling of familiarity with no memory behind it. Here's something most people never realize about how memory works. Recognizing something is actually 2 separate jobs happening at once. There is one fast system that just gives you a feeling, a sense of this is familiar, I know this. And there is a second, slower system that does the real work of pulling up the actual memory, the where and the when and the how you know it. Normally these 2 run together so smoothly you never notice they are separate. You see a friend, you feel the familiarity, and you retrieve their name and your history together, all in one seamless instant. Déjà vu is what happens when those 2 systems briefly come apart. The familiarity system fires hard, screaming, "This is familiar," but the memory system comes up completely empty. You are left holding the raw feeling of a memory with absolutely no memory attached to it. Think of it like a smoke alarm going off in a house with no fire. The alarm itself is real, and it is working. It is genuinely detecting the kind of signal it was built to detect. There just happens to be nothing actually burning. Your familiarity system is that alarm, and in déjà vu, it has gone off for a moment with nothing real behind it. The feeling is completely genuine. The thing it is pointing at simply is not there. And that specific contradictory sensation, strong familiarity plus 0 recall, is exactly what déjà vu feels like from the inside. Here's the example that captures it perfectly. You are somewhere brand new, and you get that flash of, I have been here before, but if someone stopped you and asked, okay, when were you here? What happened last time? You have nothing. Total blank. The certainty and the emptiness sit right next to each other, and that clash is the whole uncanny feeling. I had one so strong once that it genuinely rattled me. I was in a friend's apartment I had absolutely never visited, in a city I had only just arrived in, and for about 3 full seconds, I was flooded with the certainty that I had stood in that exact spot, by that exact window, and somehow knew what was about to be said next. I did not, of course. Nothing was predictable, nothing repeated, but the feeling was so total that I actually went quiet for a moment, just waiting for reality to catch back up with me. That gap between how certain it felt and how impossible it obviously was is the entire experience in a single nutshell. And here is the warning, or really the clarification, because this is where the mystery starts to dissolve. That split between feeling and memory is not some supernatural event. It is a completely normal feature of a brain that runs recognition on 2 tracks. Déjà vu is just the rare moment when those 2 tracks briefly disagree with each other. But that only describes what it is. It does not yet explain why the familiarity system misfires in the first place. And that is where it gets genuinely interesting and genuinely unsolved. The second thing is the actual why, and I am going to be straight with you, because this is not fully figured out yet. Déjà vu is weirdly hard to study for an obvious reason. It shows up unpredictably, lasts only a couple of seconds, and you cannot exactly schedule it in a lab. So scientists have a few strong leading explanations rather than one final answer, and honestly, the leading ones are more interesting than any mystical version anyway. The first idea is a simple misfire. Deep in your temporal lobe, in the regions that handle memory and that sense of familiarity, there may be a brief, tiny electrical hiccup that accidentally tags the current moment as familiar, even though it is not. Your brain essentially stamps the present with this is a memory label by mistake. We actually have a big clue that this is real, because some people with certain kinds of activity in exactly that part of the brain experience intense déjà vu right beforehand. That points straight at the temporal lobe as the source. This also fits neatly with the fact that déjà vu spikes when you are exhausted or stressed. A tired, overtaxed brain is a slightly noisier one, more prone to the odd misfire, more likely to accidentally stamp the wrong label on an otherwise ordinary moment. It is the same reason everything gets a little glitchier when you have not slept. Your typos, your word finding, your patience. Déjà vu may just be one more small hiccup from a brain that is running low on fuel. The second idea is subtler, and it is my favorite. It is the partial match theory. The scene in front of you might genuinely resemble an old memory. The layout of a room, the arrangement of a street, the rhythm of a conversation, closely enough to trip your familiarity system, but not closely enough for you to consciously place where you know it from. So you feel the echo of the old memory without being able to find the original. Your brain says this feels like something, and it is quietly right. It just cannot tell you what. There is even a mirror image version of this that proves the whole two systems idea, and it is just as strange. It is called jamais vu, French for never seen. It is the exact opposite glitch, when something completely familiar suddenly feels alien and brand new. Like you are looking at your own front door or your own name for the very first time. And you can actually trigger a mild version of it on purpose right now. Take a common word, say the word door, and write it, or say it over and over 30 or 40 times. And at some point, it stops looking like a real word at all and dissolves into a meaningless little shape. That is your familiarity system briefly switching off for something it knows perfectly well. Déjà vu and jamais vu are two sides of the exact same coin. Familiarity showing up when it should not, and vanishing when it should not. And this is genuinely why I make this channel. So a quick thing. If you enjoy having the weird machinery of your own mind explained to you like this, take 1 second to subscribe. That is genuinely the whole point of what we do here. One strange human experience at a time. Okay, because now we get to the best and most reassuring theory of all. And here's the warning worth knowing first. Déjà vu tends to happen more when you are tired, stressed, or run down. And it is actually most common in younger people and fades as you get older, which is a strange and important clue we are about to use. It is also genuinely common. Surveys suggest something like 2/3 of people report having experienced it at least once. So if you get it, you are firmly in the overwhelming majority. It is one of the most widely shared strange experiences there is, which is a big part of why humans have been inventing dramatic explanations for it for centuries. The third thing, and the part that flips the whole eerie feeling on its head, is that déjà vu might be your brain fact-checking itself in real time. This is the theory I find genuinely beautiful, and it comes from researchers studying exactly this, including work by a psychologist named Akira O'Connor. The idea goes like this. When that false familiarity signal fires, another part of your brain, a kind of internal fact checker that monitors your memories for errors, notices something is off. It goes, wait, this feels familiar, but I have no actual record of it. That does not add up. And that eerie, uncanny feeling you get during déjà vu might not be the false memory itself. It might be the feeling of your brain catching the error. The strangeness is the sensation of a conflict being flagged, your mind holding up a hand and saying, hold on, something here is not right. Do not trust that familiarity. In this view, déjà vu is not a glitch at all. It is your error correction system doing its job. Researchers have actually gotten clever about studying this. In some experiments, they use hypnosis or carefully built lists of closely related words to plant a false sense of familiarity in people's brains, essentially manufacturing a small lab version of déjà vu. They watch what the brain does with it. And here is a fascinating finding that came out of that work. People in the grip of déjà vu often feel like they can predict what is about to happen next. That premonition part everyone describes so vividly. But when researchers actually test it, they cannot. The sense of being able to see the future is itself just another part of the illusion. One more false familiarity signal, not a real glimpse of anything, which quietly hammers the last nail into the premonition theory. Here's the example that makes it click. Remember that clue from a second ago that déjà vu fades as you get older. Under the fact checker theory, that actually makes sense. A younger brain may simply be more active and more aggressive about monitoring its own memories for mistakes, so it catches and flags these little false signals more often. As that monitoring naturally quiets down with age, you get fewer of these moments, so the eeriness might literally be the signature of a healthy, vigilant memory system, one that is paying close enough attention to notice when something does not fit. And here's the warning, and it is a responsible one. Occasional, brief déjà vu is completely normal and healthy, genuinely nothing to worry about. But if you ever start getting it very frequently or intensely or alongside other unusual symptoms, that is worth a quick conversation with a doctor. Because in rare cases, persistent déjà vu can be linked to specific activity in the brain that is worth checking. For the everyday kind, though, the once-in-a-while flash, you can relax completely. I want to be really clear so nobody spirals over a totally normal experience. The occasional flash, the kind you have had a handful of times in your life at random, is one of the most ordinary things a healthy brain does. It is common, it is brief, and by itself, it means nothing worrying at all. The line is frequency and pattern, not the feeling itself. So let me pull all of this together, because it turns one of the strangest feelings you can have into something you can actually understand. You learn that déjà vu is a feeling of familiarity with no memory behind it, caused when your brains fast recognize the system and its slower retrieve the actual memory system briefly come apart, leaving you holding the sensation of a memory with nothing attached. You learn that the leading explanations, though not fully settled, point to a small misfire in the memory regions of your temporal lobe, or to a partial match with some old memory you cannot quite place. And you learned about the most reassuring theory of all, that the eeriness itself might be your brain's own fact-checker catching a false signal, which would make déjà vu a sign of a memory system working carefully, not a broken one. And here is the part I really want you to keep, because it completely changes what that spooky feeling means. That uncanny wave is almost certainly not a window into a past life, or a crack in reality, or a warning that something is wrong. It is far more likely the quiet, invisible sound of your own mind doing something remarkable, catching itself in a tiny error and flagging it in real time to keep your sense of reality accurate. Your brain is constantly, silently checking its own work, making sure the story it tells you about what is real and what you remember actually holds together. Déjà vu might just be one of the rare moments you get to feel that process happening. It is not reality breaking. It is your mind quietly proving how hard it works to keep reality intact. There is something oddly comforting in that. Once it really lands, we tend to notice our own brains only when they seem to slip. The forgotten name, the misplaced keys, the eerie flash of déjà vu, and we read those little moments as the machine failing us. But so many of them are actually the machine succeeding, catching itself, correcting course, keeping the whole impossible illusion of a smooth, stable reality running for you every single second of your life. You almost never get to feel that maintenance happening. Déjà vu is one of the rare moments the curtain twitches and you accidentally catch a glimpse of just how much quiet work is going on back there the entire time. So the next time you get that little jolt, that impossible certainty that you have been here before, do not let it unsettle you. Just enjoy it for the genuinely strange and wonderful thing it is. A brief, rare glimpse behind the curtain of your own mind, catching your brain in the middle of a job it does silently every second of your life. Notice it, appreciate how genuinely weird it is, and let it pass, knowing it almost certainly means your memory is paying close attention. It is not a message from another life. It is a postcard from your own, sent by the part of you that never stops working to keep everything you experience feeling real and solid and yours. So tell me down in the comments, because these stories are always fascinating. When was the last time you got a really strong hit of déjà vu? And where were you? What was happening? And has anyone ever had that even rarer feeling, the opposite one, where something totally familiar suddenly feels strange and new, like you are seeing your own kitchen, or a word you have written 1,000 times for the very first time? Tell me below, because honestly, the jamais vu stories tend to be even stranger than the déjà vu ones. And if you want another one of these strange truths about the quietly brilliant machine you live inside, go watch the one on why you cannot remember being a baby, because it is the same memory system doing another one of its beautifully weird jobs. I'll see you over there, and try not to get too much déjà vu on the way.